I'm Barbara Hammond, the CEO and co-founder of the Learning Alliance. My son in kindergarten, I got called into the teacher's office, the last call you want as a parent, and was told that my son wasn't doing his job and that the teacher wasn't able to help him. So it started a long odyssey of how do I, as a parent, get my child able to read and become a productive citizen. And during COVID, he graduated as a mechanical engineer and is productively employed. So I had resources. I'm very thankful for that. Family members, tutors, and great teachers. But it was a struggle. There was shame. There was shame on my son's part, on our part. What didn't we do? What did we need to know? And so this journey of what does it take to get 90% of our kids reading on grade level by third grade is a very personal journey. The Learning Alliance was started by co-founders Liz Remington, who's here somewhere. Also we bonded together through our struggles. And so anyway, we're so appreciative. Everybody's here. This is a team sport. It takes everybody on the playing field. Today we're about uniting behind this goal, learning what it takes to build a learning brain, and acting, taking our personal actions that we can to make our community stronger, thriving. It's a moral issue, it's a spiritual issue, and it's an economic issue. So thank you all. We have a very diverse audience, people here, and I just wanted to introduce, we asked Margaret Ingram. Margaret, does anybody know Margaret? Margaret, yes. Margaret is a spiritual leader of this community. She has led our kids forever. She was not only Indian River County's Teacher of the Year, but the state of Florida's Teacher of the Year. She's become a close friend and partner, and when Margaret talks, you listen. I go, yes, ma'am. So we've asked Margaret to start this journey because she will bring a spiritual voice that will unite us in ways that I never possibly could. So Margaret, if you'd come up and share your words of wisdom.
Good morning, everybody. Wow, do you look beautiful. We know we have the favor of God because yesterday, I think around this time, it was just raining and everything, right? It was kind of a gloomy day, but look what the Lord has done. He brought all of the sunshine into the room and on the outside. So we're just going to talk to God just a little bit because it's very important that we include him and make him our priority. So let's kind of bow our heads as we speak to God. Father, it is no coincidence that this venue was chosen for the 2023 Moonshot Literacy Leaders Summit. It reminds us that we cannot do this critical work alone. We need your help. We have built upon sand far too long. We need you as our rock, that strong foundation in which we can lean on in difficult times. These are difficult times. We have not buried our heads in the sand, but we have come together in the spirit of unity to chart a new course in the way we educate our children in Indian River County. Research has shown us that literacy is that strong foundation we need to have a thriving, cohesive, and literate community. Today, we will explore ways we can collectively and individually contribute to achieving the goal of 90% of our third graders reading on grade level, and our little babies are ready for kindergarten. So, Lord, we come to you, asking you to help us to write this vision, because your words say where there is no vision, the people perish, and we want to live. So help us, Lord, as we lead this summit, that we will continue this work that you have started in us, and we ask that you would bless it in your Son, Jesus' name. Amen. So, in order for us to get kind of get acclimated to what we're going to do, we're going to kind of sing a little tune about building your foundation. This foundation that we are building, it's like a little children play kind of vacation Bible school song. So let's see if we can do it. You know, this is the only time I like make a fool of myself for children and old people. For the elderly and children, I do almost anything. Okay, so the words are up for you, and I'm going to try to just go through it one time so you can kind of know. Why don't you stand up and stretch? Because you're going to be seated for a long time. All right, let's see if we can get that beat. Let me see. 1, 2, 3. Don't build your house on a sandy land. Don't build it too near the shore. Well, it might look kind of nice, but you have to build it twice, or you have to build your house once more. You better build your house upon a rock, upon a good foundation, on a solid spot. When the storms may come and go, but the peace of God you will know. Okay, so that's how it goes. So we'll do it 3 times. You got it? All right, because this is serious work. So we are building a new foundation because we have learned so much. And you don't think he gave you all that wisdom for you to just keep it, right? So, and you're going to need it when you're working today, and you will have that little tune. Everything I do, I think about the foundation that I'm building all the time. It's all about our babies. We get a second chance to do this work over again. All right, so you can start off like you don't know it. You know, the second time you're going to get stronger, and the last time you're just going to be really, really strong. All right, 1, 2, 3, go. Don't build your house on a sandy land. Don't build it too near the shore. Well, it might look kind of nice, but you have to build it twice, or you have to build your house once more. Don't build your house on a sandy land. Don't build it too near the shore. Well, it might look kind of nice, but you have to build it twice, or you have to build your house once more. Last time, don't build your house on a sandy land. Don't build it too near the shore. Well, it might look kind of nice, but you have to build it twice, or you have to build your house once more. You better build your house upon a rock. Make a good foundation on a solid spot. When the storms may come and go, but the peace of God you will know. Do you want to run through that whole thing one more time and I'm done? Are you good? You good? Okay. When the storms of life start to try to beat up on what we are building here, we got to go to that rock where that peace is, okay? Thank you. You were so good. All right.
All right. Good morning. Welcome to the MCAN Literacy Summit. I'm Megan Kendrick, the Director of Development for the Learning Alliance, and I see so many familiar faces, so many new faces, and we couldn't be more excited to have you guys here today. I am up here to introduce a video. I did bribe my son to be your host today, so sit back and enjoy, and I'm sorry he's growing out his hair, and I cannot convince him to brush it.
Welcome to the summit, and thanks for being here. In fact, you should give yourself a round of applause. My name is Easton. You might have remembered me from my video when I was 6. Hey, there it is. When I was in 1st grade, reading was really hard for me, but after 2 years of Moonshot, I can read on grade level now. I wish I could be here today, but I'm at school. Now, are you guys ready to have a little fun? Let's play a game.
Thanks, Easton. That is my personal story. I've worked at the school district, I've worked at MCAN, but Moonshot Academy, Beachland, they've changed my son's life. And I know that if we keep this momentum going in this room that we'll build today, we can change so many more lives. For those of you that don't know, MCAN stands for Moonshot Community Action Network. And that is a group of individuals that meet once a month. There's about 125 partners, nonprofits, the Sheriff's Department, the hospital, IRSC, or IRS. Did I say that right? Okay, I used to call it IRCC. That's how old I am. So that come together once a month to really look at what we can do around our Moonshot goal. However, I do know there's some new people in here, so I wanted to see at your tables, if you could talk to your tables and use your whiteboard and write down, what is our Moonshot goal? Oh, we have a competitive table back there. This wasn't a race, Brooke. Since you were the first, would you like to stand up and tell the room what the Moonshot goal is? Woohoo! So Brooke is absolutely right, 90% literacy, because we know that you learn to read so you can read to learn. But unfortunately, if you don't learn to read, by the end of 3rd grade, you only have a 1 in 4 chance of ever catching up to your peers. It becomes a lifelong struggle. When I was at the Freshman Learning Center, I would look at these kids. I taught middle school and then went up to the Freshman Learning Center, 9th grade, and you'd look at these kids that had been in intensive reading from 6th grade all the way to 9th grade. And at that point, they almost give up, So this is a huge deal to start early so that they can be successful for the rest of their lives. With that, I want to make sure everybody has a name tag. If you do not, go ahead and quickly jot down your name. And if there's anybody new at your table that you have not met yet, introduce yourself, and then we're going to play a quick game, and we'll get started with the rest of the day. Okay, we're going to play a little game called Four Corners, just to get a sense of who's in this room, and for a little competition, some fun facts about the brain and learning to read. So what we're going to do is I'm going to ask people to look at a question. The answer choices are labeled A, B, C, and D. And when directed, we're going to stand up, and we're going to move to the answer choice that best represents your answer. So we'll see, who's the smartest group in the room. I wouldn't go to D that much. I don't think I actually chose any Ds for the right answer. I'm just kidding. I don't remember. All right. So to get us started, I'm going to ask a quick question just to get everybody standing. So if you are new to MCAN, you don't know anything about it, and this is your first time coming, would you please stand up? Wow, this is really exciting. I did not expect that. Just so you know, now you're stuck, okay? We'll see you every month, once a month. If you have been in MCAN one or 2 years, please stand up. Oh, you can remain standing if you're already up. I'm sorry. Direction flaw. Okay. 3 to 6 years? And longer than I can remember. All right. With that, we are going to go to question 1. Remember, our corners are A, B, C, D. Sorry. Wow, you guys really mixed that up for me. Thank you. For my dyslexic brain, that really, whew. All right. Question number 1. Which group do you best connect with? Are you a concerned citizen or philanthropist who wants to help promote the importance of early literacy? Are you an elected, and that's A, thank you. Are you an elected official or other community leader? B, social service organization, nonprofit is C, and school district employee is D. Oh, there is one. All right, concerned citizens. A, elected officials. B, back of the room is nonprofits. And the front of the room is the school district employees. All right, turn around, say hi to your friends. All right, if you can hear my voice, clap once. Clap twice. I think this is amazing to see so many people from so many different walks of life, so many different organizations coming together around a common goal. And if you just look at this room and imagine if we harness this power, I know 90% literacy is possible. So thank you all for being here from everywhere. All right, next. Let's see how quickly we can transition in this one. What experience can you best relate with when it comes to learning to read? If you struggled reading yourself, you're with Liz in corner A. If you had a child or family member who struggled learning to read, you're with Leslie at B. If you were blessed and reading came naturally to you and your family, you're at C. And if you really can't remember learning to read, you just kind of was at school and it happened, you're going to be a D. All right. Wow, you guys are amazing. And thank you for all of those who actually, shared too. What we found is every time we go out as a Learning Alliance in an event, we run into somebody that says, my son struggled, my grandson struggled, I struggled learning to read. And it's not just, some kids. We are seeing this more and more, especially due to COVID. My son struggled, my neighborhood kids are struggling. Typical students that might not struggle are really having an impact. So it makes this work more important than ever that we, get those kids young and get them started. All right, we're almost done. This is a pop quiz. Okay. Next. Whoa, 2 more. Can you go back to there you go. All right, a baby is born with over 100 billion neurons, which are the basic building blocks of the brain. How many will they have in adulthood? Let's do a speed walk. A, 50 billion. B, 100 billion. C, 200 billion. D, 500 billion. Kim is none of the above. All right, the correct answer is actually A. Woohoo! I am no neuroscientist, nor do I claim to be one on TV. I am not going to go into the details of this, but we're going to learn a little bit about this later. But neurons only last when you form strong connections, and you don't need all of them. But that is why it is so important at birth to read, talk, play, sing, create. Read, talk, play, sing, create. One more time. Read, talk, play, sing, create. Moonshot families lead the way. I should never do that on a microphone. That was impromptu. So we have to work with babies and we have to make the connections early in life because if you don't make them, you lose them. And that leads us to our final quest. Well, 2 more. Oh gosh. So we're gonna speed it up a little so you don't have to walk. We'll just raise your hand if you agree or disagree. So what is the return on an investment for quality early childhood programs? If you think it is $2 for every $1, please raise your hand. $4? Going once, going twice. $8? $13. It's D, $13. And this is why it's so important as a community that we advocate because the return on investment is huge. And unfortunately, some people at the state, levels don't see this as an investment. They see it as a cost. But we know in this room we have to advocate to get more money into quality pre-K, quality early childhood education. And finally, in Indian River County, how many of our 3rd grade students are reading at or above grade level? 43? 53? 58? 68? Not yet, right? That's this end of this year, right, Dr. Moore? Okay. So 58% of our students, it's above the state average, It is above the national average. Our district, under the leadership team here today, has climbed from 28th in the district to 12th in the district over the last 3 years, amid all the pandemic and everything. So we have a wonderful team. We are making progress here in Indian River County, and a large part is also for the people in this room who are committed to our children. So with that, I want to thank you. And as you walk back to your table, I'm going to set you up for the next activity. I want you to think what excited you to join this conversation today. And some of those ideas might be to learn more about reading, learn how to get involved, create some action plans. So just kind of think about it as you get back to your tables, and thank you all.
So my name is Debbie Arsenault. I work with the Learning Alliance. I am our Extended Learning Program Manager as well as our Arts Integration Specialist. And so you will see me popping up throughout the day to guide us in a little reflection activity as we continue to learn, talk, play, sing, and create together today. We're going to take some pause points to really make sure that we're consolidating or holding on to that information. So our intentions, anchored in our intentions for the day. So in order to help us really remember our intentions for the day, I'm going to give us a quick little gesture moment. So really our goal is to bring together, to unite everyone in this room and everyone outside of this room around this moonshot goal. So I want everybody to say the word unite while you take your hands and give me a nice wraparound unite gesture as we say unite. Very nice. Look at that unity already in place. I love it. So we're going to unite. We're also going to open up our brains and we're going to stuff some information in there. So we're going to learn. So everybody stuff some information in your brain while you say learn. Yes. And it's not just about learning, right? That's great. We might learn a lot. But if it just sits there on the table and we don't do anything with it, how could we possibly move forward? So it's also about taking action, right? So I want everybody just to take a strong superhero, I am the one pose as you say the word act. Very nice. So today we are going to unite. We are going to learn, and we are going to act. Thank you. Thank you for joining us on this crazy adventure, and we're going to learn a little bit more about what does it mean to be a part of a moonshot community.
You're here today because you're a leader in our moonshot community. What's that? Let's find out.
In a moonshot community, we understand the science of reading and bring it into our homes, schools, and communities.
We support families
beginning at birth so that all children enter kindergarten
ready to learn.
Early childhood educators are respected as brain builders and receive training to ensure our most precious resources will be ready for kindergarten.
In our elementary schools, we provide innovative training, literacy coaches, and interventionists
to ensure we can teach all children to read.
We give students extra time in school, after school, and in the summer,
where learning is applied in meaningful and relevant ways so students are eager and able to learn.
Our schools and Moonshot community partner together to be best by kids, supporting their literacy skill development birth through 3rd grade and beyond.
We understand that schools can't do it alone.
We support our employees to be part of their child's education.
Businesses embrace the mission by volunteering our time and donating our resources.
As community leaders, we rise to the challenge and we inspire others to do the same.
Our Moonshot community is recognized annually as a national pacesetter for our collaborative work to make our county a leading literacy capital of the nation.
We invite everyone to join the journey
because we know it takes an entire community.
A Moonshot community is one of inspiration and dedication. It is a story of what we can accomplish when we take a stand for putting our youngest citizens first.
This is our Moonshot community.
I'm going to ask Ray Oglethorpe and Dr. Moore if they'll come up next. I am Marie O'Brien. I'm with the Learning Alliance. You all have been receiving emails from me, so thank you all for being here. I am the facilitator of our Moonshot Community Action Network. And we wanted Ray and Dr. Moore, I know, is over here. Just to, as hosts of this event, we want to thank you for hosting this. And we heard from Barbara Hammond, we heard from Margaret Ingram about what inspired you to be here today. So I think we'll have Ray start and share what inspired him, and then Dr. Moore.
Thank you, Marie, and wow, this is incredible. The first time in 13 years with the Learning Alliance, we've had a parking problem. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for being here. It's unbelievable. You know, the reason I'm here today and why I'm committed to this whole effort is because if you look at me, I could be the poster child of education. What literacy has done for my life is unbelievable. I was born in 1944 in a small, rural, poor coal mining town of southwestern Pennsylvania. If it hadn't been for literacy, if it hadn't been for teachers who believed in me and educated me, there's a chance I could still be there. But it's just not me, but that whole thing opened up my entire life. It transformed my life. But it's also transformed my oldest daughter's life. My oldest daughter made it through college, but I always thought she was more about social than she was academic. But it turned out that after she graduated from college, she wanted to go on to graduate school. But she couldn't get in. She couldn't pass the GREs enough to get into graduate school. So a friend of mine said, Ray, maybe she's got learning disabilities. I said, you're kidding. She's been through college. She's 23 years old. So we had her tested. Guess what? She had lots of learning disabilities. And she had struggled through school. And I kept thinking, man, if we would have found that out earlier, how much better her life would have been early on. The point is, after taking a year off, going to school, learning how to deal with these disabilities, she ended up getting into the college of her choice. She graduated at the top of her class with a master's degree, and she has a successful practice here in Indian River County as a speech-language pathologist. But it just doesn't stop there. I have a grandson, Raymond, my namesake. Little Raymond in the 2nd grade hated school, hated his teachers, didn't want to study. So I asked Liz Woody Remington, would she tutor him after class in the 2nd grade when she had time? She took on the challenge. 4 months later, that training changed that kid's life. Today, he's a straight A student, finishing his freshman year in high school, taking AP courses, and just a wonderful, young, self-confident man. So that's my life. 3 generations I've seen literacy transform lives. Mine, my daughters, and my grandson. So thank you very much for being here and for your commitment to this effort. Dr. Moore.
What can't the people in this room do for the students of this county? That's why we're here, to have drastic change in the lives of our children, to transform what education looks like for each and every single child who lives in Indian River County. Children should be better because they were born in Indian River County. We are charged to change and continuously improve the quality of instruction. When we talk about literacy, for me, it's very, very personal. My life was changed multiple times, and we all have these different connections or paths in our life where we realize something or we learn something, and it ultimately changed the trajectory of our life. My daughter, who had an absolute wonderful experience as a gymnast, she was the best one in her school. In her gym. She was extremely confident, but in school she was not. We saw the struggles that she was experiencing. She was fundamentally 2 different children. And my wife made a decision that my child will not be failed. My child will be successful. Pulled her out of school. Wasn't an educator herself, but made the decision, I'm going to give every resource to my kid to ensure she will be successful. Spent about 6 years educating her, figuring out how to meet her specific needs. Then she went back to middle school, graduated, and in 8 weeks, She will graduate from Florida State University with her bachelor's in sociology, so we couldn't be any prouder of her. The impact for me, through that path, I was a principal, I was an assistant superintendent, I was a public educator. And the realization that I made is that the public school system was failing my child. We had the resources, well, we really didn't have the resources, but we made the decision to have change in our life for our daughter. But each and every single student should have that available through them as a result of public education. That's my charge, that's my push, that's why I'm here, to ensure every single student in this county has everything they need. Everything that my wife gave to my daughter to ensure her success is something we should collectively understand is an expectation of what education is in our county. Thank you.
I went to the back of the room because I was one of those people that school was super easy for, but not the social side, so kind of the polar opposite of Ray's daughter. And I found theater, and I found drama, and I found the arts. Unlocked that for me. This community's commitment to making sure that every student has access to learning in every way possible is what brought me here. You have a moment now to think about your why. Why does this matter to you? Why is this important to you? And what brought you into this journey? Whether you've been on it or you're just showing up today, take 2 minutes and turn and talk to the neighbor on your left or your right, because not everybody turn to the left, that wouldn't work, at your table.
We are so excited to have so many of our guests here, so many of you who are new, so many who are from out of town. We've got our friends from Martin County, St. Lucie County, and I think Ron Fairchild is a person who has traveled the furthest. So we're going to have Ron come up next, but first I want to share, introduce Ron, and we have a video to kind of explain all this work that we're doing. But we met Ron Fairchild 10 years ago, I guess, whenever the Indian River County and our Moonshot Moment group joined the campaign for grade level reading. So this is a international campaign because you're in Canada as well. So Ron will share more. We have won Pace Setter Awards each year. Ron's going to talk a little bit about that. But you know, the campaign for grade level reading is, we're part of it. They're shared, that we all have the same shared mission. So this video is going to explain a little more of that. And since so many of you are new, you may not have seen this yet. See if you recognize the audio on this, if you can tell who that's from.
Meet Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, and Mr. and Mrs. Johnson and Jordan, and Jamie Johnson, 2 beautiful babies born on the very same day. Each baby has a good chance of landing in a good place in life, as long as one of them doesn't lose the zip code lottery. Like 1 million babies each year, Jamie's been born into a low-income family. And since Jamie's mom lacked access to good prenatal care, Jamie's much smaller than Jordan. And since they won't have access to brain-developing activities found in high-quality childcare, low-income children like Jamie will be 2 times more likely to experience developmental delays. It probably won't surprise you that by their 3rd birthday, Jamie's been exposed to a lot fewer words than Jordan. A whole lot fewer. And I imagine Jamie's 4th birthday won't be much better. By the time they reach kindergarten, Jamie will have already fallen behind Jordan in language and pre-reading skills by 12 to 14 months. And getting to school on a regular basis will be perhaps Jamie's biggest challenge. Unfortunately, a myriad of health, transportation, and housing problems will cause between 5 and 7.5 million Jamies to be chronically absent this year. But with summer right around the corner, you'd think Jamie would have plenty of time to catch up with Jordan then. Sadly, summer presents new challenges for Jamie, a mountain of challenges. You see, every summer, Jordan's learning will evolve by a month because of access to libraries, field trips, and camps, while Jamie will lose 2 months of school learning every summer because good habits such as reading haven't been reinforced. By the time they reach 3rd grade, Jamie will be between 2 and 2.5 school years behind Jordan in critical reading skills. And how much more likely is Jamie to drop out than Jordan because he can't read at a 3rd grade level? 13 times more likely, and the results of which are frankly catastrophic. Wait just 1 minute there, folks. The story doesn't end right there. Fortunately for Jamie and Jordan and all of us, there's a whole lot of folks out there that believe neither luck, nor lottery, nor zip codes should dictate Jamie's future, who also believe that our schools can't do it alone. Luckily, there are leaders, organizations, and good people out there that are dedicated to believing in a whole lot more. The solution right now is relatively straightforward if we can commit to 4 things. Number 1, we need to make sure our kids are healthy and ready for school. Number 2, we need to ensure they grow up in a word and book-enriched environment. Number 3, we need to engage them in healthy and educational activities over the summer. Number 4, we need to make sure that Jamie attends school every single day, because at the end of the day, you and I both know that lotteries, zip codes, and plain old dumb luck don't really author our children's future. We do.
Who recognized the voice? Mayor Jones? It was Morgan Freeman. So again, it's my pleasure to introduce Ron Fairchild. Come on up, Ron. Ron, again, traveled the furthest, and we are so happy to have you here. Did you prefer handheld or? Okay, thanks. Thank you very
much. Well, thank you, Marie. It is so good to be with all of you, and it's always fun to follow the voice of Morgan Freeman. It's also very humbling, but I wanted to start by just saying why I'm here. We had some opportunity together to talk about your why, but I'm here for one primary reason. It's why I got on a flight yesterday and came down here, joined several of you for dinner last night, and plan to spend so much time with you today, and that is gratitude. I'm here fundamentally because I am grateful to all of you, and I wanted to say thank you personally for the impact that you're having here in this community in Indian River County, and for the impact that you're having all across the country with our network now of more than 300 communities with the campaign for grade level reading. I wanted to share this slide with you so you get a sense. All the stars on this map are communities that have put a stake in the ground. And I will say, when I say put a stake in the ground, there is none finer than Indian River County in terms of articulating a goal that is ambitious, actionable, and achievable that the entire community can rally around and use as something to motivate and mobilize a community. And as I look at this map, there are some stars that shine a little bit more brightly than others. Some stars that serve as a beacon and set the pace for others and help people navigate this long and difficult journey and refer back to other folks and connect with other folks who you can learn from and with. And Indian River County is just one of those stars. You are a beacon, you are a superstar in this network, and I wanted to say thank you for doing that. You're a pace setter. All of these banners behind me prove that. You have been since the very beginning of the campaign. Both the Learning Alliance and the campaign started at about the same time, and we have drawn inspiration from each other in this journey, and that is something that I am profoundly grateful for. I want you to know that you're not innovating alone. You do not have to start from scratch on every idea. You can start at step 3 or 4 based on what other communities are doing, and you are committed to sharing what you're learning here with other folks so they don't have to start from scratch. We're regularly adding new communities to our network all the time, and we count on Indian River County and others to help pave the way for them as they move forward. Now, my next slide is an image. I'm a Ravens fan from Baltimore, so I have a really hard time. Thank you. I got some other Ravens fans here. I have a really hard time with the Kansas City Chiefs, but begrudgingly, Coach Reed of the Kansas City Chiefs, widely known and respected in the NFL as one of the best strategists and play designers in the league. And I don't know about you, I was watching the Super Bowl, and I had this thought, because I'm constantly thinking about the campaign and about strategies for disrupting generational poverty, even when I'm having fun watching the Super Bowl. And I looked at this image, and I saw him holding up that laminated sheet of paper, and I got to thinking, like, how valuable the collective wisdom and knowledge that's represented on that summary of their plays as an organization. And I thought, you know, wouldn't it be great if we as a campaign and as a Indian River County, the collective wisdom and knowledge, what if we could represent that in a playbook? And that is what the Campaign for Grade Level Reading is committing to doing this year, is harvesting the lessons learned about what's working, how well it's working, where it's working, under what conditions it's working, from our pacesetter communities and communities around the country, and putting it together in a way that can be accessed and downloaded by others who are doing this work. So I wanted to mention that to you to say we're counting on you for populating some of those plays, for gathering that information from your respective organizations and the partnerships that you've built here. And that's something that you can count on from us as we move forward in this work together. I also wanted to show you a graphic on our next slide that is, it may be difficult to read some of the words there, but this is the campaign's framework for community mobilization. And I think when you look at this, you might see represented in this some of your multiple hypotheses as an organization and as a network here. And I love the way that we are reflecting back to each other the lessons learned in this work. Your organization here, the Learning Alliance, and your network and your community has helped inform the campaign strategy around third grade reading proficiency and ways to mobilize an entire community. There's no one single thing, no mystical incantation or silver bullet or whatever metaphor you want to do or use that will ensure that every child will reach the third grade reading proficiency milestone. It takes a lot of things working together and stacking and connecting the things that work. the programs, the strategies, the practices that you engage in as a community. It's not enough just to keep your head down and implement your own program. Your Moonshot Community Action Network creates a vehicle for connecting those programs, those strategies and practices across the developmental continuum, from born healthy to thriving by 3 to kindergarten ready to reading by 3rd grade. It takes all of this work connected together to really make sure that kids hit this milestone. You have to braid and align and connect a variety of different strategies to make this work effective. This next image may be familiar to some of you who are familiar with the science of reading, Hollis Scarborough's reading rope. I see some heads nodding on this. We've kind of adapted that a little bit and talked about the broader sets of things that young people need in order to get to the 3rd grade reading milestone. Things like prenatal care, home visiting programs, print-rich and literacy-rich environments, high-quality early childhood education and support, parent leadership, parent partnership and success, food security, nutrition, basic skills, evidence-based literacy practices and instruction in kindergarten through 3rd grade, early warning and response systems on chronic absence, expanded learning opportunities during the summer months and during after-school time, and really focused tutoring and mentoring that really helps connect kids around the importance of literacy and language development. All of those things have to be brought together, and it takes a campaign and a mobilized community to be able to do that. You are creating an ecosystem here in Indian River County, and you're learning and acting together, staying united, helps build an environment and a context in which all young people can be successful, and I am confident in the work that you have to do ahead that you will get to this 90% milestone. We are there with you. I want to close by just encouraging you to keep up the great work. It is a long and difficult journey, but you're clear about your destination, and you aren't alone, and you are committed to being united, and others are depending on you to break new ground and to innovate and to lead the way. And I want you to just know how truly impressed and inspired I am by your commitment. And every time I visit this community, I learn something more. And what I love perhaps more than anything is the commitment to improvement. The commitment to improvement. I know that Indian River County is a place where folks know better and do better. And that to me is very inspiring. So I want to just say again, thank you, let you know how grateful I am and how grateful our network of communities across the country are for your work and your commitment. Thank you very much.
So now we're going to take a moment to process what we just learned and discuss it at our table. And then I invite you, there's some Post-its, and you have a binder, you've got all kinds of things to write on. We're going to take about 4 minutes, and I'm going to give you an opportunity to really just discuss what jumped out at you. What did you just learn from what Ron shared so far, being a part of this national network? And informed by that, what could you do with that information? What actions could you take? So you'll hear Marie's gong when we have about 2 minutes left. So I invite you to turn and talk at your table about what you just learned. We are now going to take just a few share outs in the room. We want to make your thinking visible. We want to share the collective wisdom into the room. So Marie's going to look for our first brave volunteers. I know it's intimidating to share out in a room of nearly 200 people. But if we could get a couple folks to share, what are some of the things that you discussed about what you learned from Ron's talk? I got
Good morning,
Doc
everyone.
Jones in the house.
Yeah. Peggy Jones, and we have a wonderful table here, and I learned a lot. First of all, the playbook idea, everybody working together. You know, sometimes copying someone, and that's a compliment. So, of course, mark your source, but that playbook idea. But this is very powerful. Right now, United Way, I learned a lot from United Way, 60% of this community is either in poverty or the ALICE population. And ALICE is basically the working poor. Oh, okay, Meredith. And so I always think about that. Who's coming to us in public schools? But one thing was so powerful. Stop telling them they are in poverty. Stop telling them. Show them what you can do. Show them that people are here to help you. People are here that look like you. People are here to make sure that you have the best education possible. And I believe public education is the foundation of this country. And what we do for all of our children will tell us how we are going to succeed in the future. So that was very powerful, and thank you to my table. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc Jones.
And that is why we are so grateful to have you on our school board, Doc Jones. Thank you. All right, let's get one more learning, and then we'll get an action.
I'm Susie Hunter. At our table, we focused pre-education, and we were talking about building our connections with the healthcare community, and specifically the whole issue of food insecurity. Could we be doing more to ensure that these children are well-fed, nourishing food when anything that is provided at school? And what can we do to start providing backpacks of food for weekends for these kids that have food insecurity, so their brains have some sort of chance of growing and thriving within the school community?
Amazing. Already moving right into action. Love it. All right, let's get one from over here. What is an action that you all discussed that could come out of these insights?
Hi, I'm Jackie Jacobs.
Yay.
Thank you. Today I'm representing Laura Redding Jackson Foundation. But at our table, we did have some people who didn't know there was a national organization. So thanks for that information. But one thing that we noticed there were two important threads I think we talked about here. A thread that's missing is safe and secure environments. So for many children, school is the safest place they have in their life. And a lot of the reaction we see on Fridays and holidays and summers is that they're not going to have that security. So we want that thread added. And a really important action that came out of our table was we need as a community to know which of those threads are working for us and which are not.
Thank you, Jackie.
Beautiful. All right, Marie, I think it is time to announce what is happening while bringing up Shanti Sanchez and the Moonshot Families team on deck.
So lunches will be coming around, and we want to take a little brain break. So we've asked our Moonshot Families team to lead us in something that makes it really easy to remember how we're going to fulfill and one of the actions we all can take.
Okay, we're just going to do what we do every day when we meet with families in the community, when we go to child care centers and preschools to address the families and kids and child care workers working with our youngest learners from birth to age 5. We do 5 things, and we have our little jingle, which you heard before. First thing we do is read. Everybody say read. Read. Talk. Play. Sing. And create. And Sue Gromas, wherever you are, if you could come on up, we're going to sing, and we're also going to sign. We're going to learn to sing this jingle 3 ways. So we'll sing it first in English, okay? Ready? Read, talk, play, sing, create. Read, talk, play, sing, create. Read, talk, play, sing, create. Moonshot Families lead the way. Again. Read, talk, play, sing, create. Read, talk, play, sing, create. Read, talk, play, sing, create. Moonshot Families. One more time. Read, talk, play, sing, create. Read, talk, play, sing, create. Read, talk, play, sing, create. Moonshot Families lead the way. Woo! Okay, good job. That sticks in your head. That's what we want. And I'm going to ask Jomira Lagos, one of our family connection specialists, to help us with the Spanish. How do you say read?
Leer.
Leer. Talk.
Hablar.
Hablar. Play.
Jugar.
Jugar. Sing.
Cantar.
Cantar. And let's say create.
Crear. Vamos a crear.
Let's create. Okay, we're going to do that one a little slower till you get the hang of it. Ready? Leer, hablar, jugar, cantar. Leer, hablar, jugar, cantar. Leer, hablar, jugar, cantar. Vamos a crear.
Moonshot.
Leer, hablar, jugar, cantar. Leer, hablar, jugar, cantar. Leer, hablar, jugar, cantar. Vamos a crear. I don't. One more time. I don't hear everybody yet. Leer, hablar, jugar, cantar. Leer, hablar, jugar, cantar. Leer, hablar, jugar, cantar. Vamos a crear.
Moonshot.
And last but not least, Sue Gromas over here is an expert who taught us the American Sign Language, ASL, to go with those 5 words. Can you show us read? Okay, everybody got it? Read. Talk. Play. Sing. And create. Okay, let's do that real slow as we sing. Read, talk, play, sing, create. Read, talk, play, sing, create. Read, talk, play, sing, create. Moonshot families lead the. Could you show us moonshot again? Moon. Families lead the way. Okay? All right. Thank you all. That was your brain break. Your brains were working and playing and talking. Oh.
I am thrilled and really, really excited to introduce our next speaker to the room. I know everybody's getting their lunches, so I'm just going to ask you to do your best to keep the crinkle crackle to a minimum. But we need to feed our brains as well, our bodies as well as our brains. So I'm going to bring up to the stage now Amy Morgan. Amy Morgan is new to us here in Indian River County, but she is a child neuropsychologist from Harvard Medical School and Massachusetts General. And she's going to give us a little bit, she's going to definitely teach us some really critical information about how we learn. And be prepared, because then we're going to play a game with some information about how we learn. So the idea is we're modeling all along the way how we want to engage with our kids and how we want to teach, right? So, Amy, you ready? Let's learn a little thing about the brain.
So thank you all for inviting me to be here. And I am thrilled, really, to be associated with the Moonshot program, and also I'm unbelievably impressed with the approach you take to learning and also the results of what you do. The results are overwhelming to me. So I'm going to briefly review why it's important to understand a bit about brain development, because the more we understand about how our brains grow and develop and then acquire skills, the better able we are to spot very early on those tiny red, very light red flags that may arise early in development, and then we'll know how and why we're doing what we do to intervene. So this is a very brief overview of brain development and learning, very brief. But the Moonshot program is putting on a luncheon with me on April 25th, Tuesday, at which point I'll be reviewing much more in depth about brain development and learning, and there'll be times for questions and answers to go along with that. So neurons are the basic building blocks of our brain, and these neurons begin developing shortly after birth or shortly after conception, And then the brain building work continues into our mid-20s. Fortunately, we're able to learn beyond that point, and I thank goodness for that just about every day. So we're born, as we noted in an earlier presentation, with billions of neurons. And those neurons travel through the brain to form the different structures in the brain. But then they have to communicate with each other so that the brain can do stuff. And so how they connect with each other or talk to each other is with electrical and chemical signals, and then they form superhighways or networks that make communication much more efficient and effective. And it allows our brains to manage even large amounts of information. But how do these connections form? So these billions of neurons form trillions of connections, and I'm usually overwhelmed by trillions of anything. And I had to look this up, but trillions are actually more than the number of stars in our universe. So our brain with these connections is doing a ton of work, especially at the young ages, and it's taking up a lot of brain energy to do this work. So once these connections, though, are formed, it eases up on the brain energy, and the connections and the brain is able to process information much more smoothly and effectively, and it doesn't require then as much brain energy to do its job. So these neurons and networks that are not used, and we found this out earlier, which was a surprise to most of us, it would have been to me, but those that are not used are eliminated. And this is referred to pruning and cell death that happens. And it is unsettling to think we're actually losing neurons as we get older, but we're supposed to, and to not lose them makes an unhealthy brain or a very inefficient brain. So losing the neurons is essential for brain development. So the brain develops its skills become increasingly specialized as these connections are made, and as unwanted connections or unused connections are formed and cell death occurs. So how effective the networks are depends in large part on the experiences a child has before age 5. And so this really emphasizes the importance on focusing on early childhood education. And as I'll come to show you, this also highlights, well, it's also important from birth to age 3 is a key part of the importance of early brain development. So here's the brain, the final brain, and its functions, and we'll get to this in a bit, but it develops from front to back. So the basic functions of the brain, as you can see, movement, et cetera, develop early on, and then the frontal lobe, which is more the last to develop, is where the reasoning, problem solving, et cetera, takes place, which is, some of this is, again, not developed until the mid-20s. So we've kind of covered neurons, networks, and the importance of early childhood we've touched on, but another concept important for early childhood is a concept of the sensitive periods of development. And this is when the brain's neurons and the chemicals that are looking for places for the neurons to talk to, this is when they're most primed for incoming information to be used and for these networks to be formed. And I'm thinking of, like, vision is one that has a very sensitive period of development. Language and early reading skills also has other sensitive periods of development. And when these aren't used or aren't developed at the appropriate times, it doesn't mean that that the skills can't be acquired later in life. It just means that it's that much harder for the brain to learn when it's not as well primed to do so. So I'm going to briefly review, again, some sensitive periods that are associated with language and learning, and also kind of helps us be on the alert for those small red flags that might occur early on. And I also want to point out that I'm talking to knowledgeable people, but we all work with people who are more vulnerable and at risk. And none of this is to make a parent feel guilty, because I am convinced that every parent wants to do his and her job as well as they possibly can. But if they're busy working several jobs, trying to put food on the table, a roof over the head, dealing with other factors that puts their family at risk, it's very difficult to focus on the things I'm talking about as well. And so it kind of takes a village, which you're all providing, to help these things be in place for the kids at risk. So back to the sensitive periods and reading skills. First, the foundation of effective reading skills begins within the first 6 months of life, and actually a little bit prenatally. And this is when a child begins to recognize the different sounds of language, and which is critical to the development of reading skills. Then, at around 12 months, vocabulary begins to be formed, and it's critical for reading and, of course, understanding or comprehending what we read and using it. Again, this begins to develop about 12 months of age, and as the wiring, the development moves forward in the brain, comprehension is moving a little bit forward too, so it takes more, vocabulary takes a little more brain energy to develop and more well-wired networks. Then shortly after vocabulary begins to develop, the brain's ability to visually recognize letters begins to form. And again, it requires more complex wiring. And then the recognition of the letters also is associated with associating them with word sounds or letter sounds, and which is obviously important for reading and considered one of the foundations of reading. So we've got that. Then by age 2, the child has begun to understand the meaning and importance of grammar and word order in phrases and sentences, and you see the change kind of from vocabulary, mommy, to a very short phrase, mommy car, and then mommy, I get in car, and things like that. And that takes place at a further developed area of the brain, getting more into the frontal lobe of the brain. So we've got language sounds, vocabulary, letter recognition, and grammar, and these skills typically develop by age 3. And so we have a foundation for language and learning already in place, or want to have the foundation in place, by age 3. And so in providing early childhood education and support is critical for the child's success, not just in school, but throughout their entire life. So what's fascinating in addition to me is that these skills are not just important for language and reading, but they also serve as an important foundation for attention and executive functioning networks. And these are really critical for success later in life. And again, these can form later, but it has to take more direct instruction, and that foundation for learning hasn't been laid down as solidly. So this also highlights the importance of read, talk, play, sing, and create, those activities. So fortunately, our brain can learn throughout the lifespan, but it's harder to acquire those skills. And in addition to what I've just talked about, these skills, and we've had this examples of this provided by earlier speakers, but the foundation for these skills also provide, especially as a child enters school, their self-concept, and their sense of themselves as a capable learner. And as children usually think in these terms, am I smart or am I dumb? And I also want to emphasize that having difficulty learning to read has nothing to do with a child's smarts. So I think that, as a slight digression, I think that it's really important to emphasize that. I've found in my own practice back in Boston that parents are very reluctant initially to acknowledge that their child has reading difficulties because they think it they believe that it has something to do with the kids' smarts. And so I try to emphasize that right away. The two things are completely separate. And then the parents' perception and underlying shame that their child may not be smart permeates to the child, and it just has a cascading effect that is not good. So the belief of a child in his or her ability to learn and be successful in life can impact their entire life. So we've reviewed basic brain and language reading skills. I'm now going to I'm going to just mention very briefly about the quality of the parent-child interaction and the development of these basic skills. Research shows us very clearly, actually, that beginning at birth, responsive, loving, and playful social interactions with caregivers results in larger brains, and particularly in the areas of attention, language, and executive functioning. So without these supportive interaction, the child loses opportunities to develop good social skills, and his or her stress levels will increase. And a more stressed system further limits brain growth and adversely affects the development of the child's skills. So all of these things are woven together. So in conclusion, the development of skills critical to language and reading begins in infancy, and caring and supportive interactions with caregivers during infancy and early childhood are directly related to a child's success in school and in life. Hence the importance of you all and the Moonshot program, the Learning Alliance, and the School District of Indian River County. And I want to thank you all very much again for this opportunity to be here.
All right, so we're gonna play a little game to make this real. So here, I'm gonna give each one of you a microphone. I'm also gonna bring up Liz Remington, who has not fully been introduced yet, but as the co-founder of the Learning Alliance, and also our chief academic officer. Yeah, we have a fancy new title for Liz. She's the one in charge of all the learning at the Learning Alliance. And we're gonna play a quick little game. So you have a paddle at your table. And it has a green thumbs up and a red thumbs down. Give me a thumbs up if you got it. Yeah, we're getting it. Okay, cool. I feel like I'm an auctioneer right now. This is great. All right, give me a thumbs down so I can see what that looks like. Oh, that is way less encouraging. Okay, so let's make this a little more concrete, as we like to say, not just for buildings, right? What does this look like in our schools, in our homes, and in our communities, right? So I'm gonna give you some examples of behaviors that may or may not be, in fact, one of those supportive, protective factors for the development of the brain, all right? And you're gonna give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Thumbs up means, yes, that is a thing we should do. That's gonna help support the building a brain of a kid who can learn to read. Thumbs down means that is not going to be helpful. Got it? This is a test. Got it? Yeah, see, you passed. You used the thumbs up right. All right, awesome. Let's start with the first one. So a parent who talks with their child about the shapes and colors they see as they walk down the street. Helpful? Yeah. Well, why is that helpful, Liz?
Well, so when a parent talks to a child going down the street, there's a couple things that are occurring there. This is a huge cognitive milestone for kids, for them to be able to visually distinguish one object from another and then name it. That's a big first step. Where that develops in literacy is the ability to distinguish the letter A from the letter B and then add a name to it. It also supports the development of language and the experience with language as a positive one that is driven by inquiry and questioning and creativity. So it's a critical first step to literacy, but it's also critical for language development.
I'm gonna have you hold that one, and I'll stay here. All right, how about this next one? Parents who sing lullabies to their child in their native language. Yeah. Amy, tell us why that one. You can use that one. Tell us why that works.
Well, so they're using language And they're also, lullabies are usually simple words, emphasizing the sounds of words. And they're also forming that parent or that caregiver-child responsiveness that's so important to brain development.
And fun fact, the rhythm of the rhyme helps synchronize with the heartbeat, right? So we're really connecting parasympathetic and sympathetic. All right, number 3, parents who share a book with the child on their lap. All right, that was a gimme.
Thumbs down.
But I saw a thumbs down. Liz, speak to that one. Okay, use this one.
Okay, so there are 6 things that being read to as a child build. So let's see if we can hang on, remember these 6 things. Thing number 1 is phonology, the sound structure of our language. Early literacy text stretch out the sounds, repeat the sounds of our language. And what a child is doing is storing everything they know about the sounds of our language, and they're going to bring that knowledge to the later act of reading a text. Second thing it does is empathy, right? That we can step into the shoes of another only through literature and text. It also, the way we speak is less sophisticated than the way that we write in terms of vocabulary and sentence structure. So the only way we can build a vocabulary of 50,000 words by the end of high school is for kids, as they move through school, preschool, and then moving through school, they get exposed to text. They get exposed to vocabulary, complex structures. You talked about executive function skills being read to. The first thing it does is it is critical for your attentional networks to develop. First step in reading is developing those executive function attentional networks. Let's see, what am I on?
Too many things.
Oh, print concept, bringing better visual, memory, and sound. And then really that development of those metacognitive and metalinguistic skills. When we read, we have access to words, they open up thoughts, they open up ideas, and a whole world of creativity and real thinking.
All right, here we go. Let's look at this next one carefully. Parent who gives their toddler a tablet or phone so they can watch an instructional video. Thumbs up or thumbs down? All right, we have a mixed crowd on this one. Amy, do you want to tell us what the research says about this?
So I think screen times are inevitable. So we have to take that fact into consideration. But what doesn't happen during screen time is that the parent isn't modeling for the child how to learn and to reflect on what they're learning. It's a very passive interchange of tablet and kid. They're also not establishing eye contact and that relationship that's really important and facilitates learning. And it's not good for attention span. However, it's good to keep that in mind, and research shows that the kids who spend more time on tablets early on have contributes to poorer language and reading skills later in life or later in childhood.
So the takeaway is that it has to be minimal, not totally gone.
It would be great if it was nothing, but that's just not the world we live in.
But that's just not the world we live in. I just don't want anybody to go home having nightmares about, using tablets at all. But the research says minimal because of those factors and understanding the interaction around it, right? All right, I'm going to cruise us through these last couple ones. Here we go. A child with a chronic ear infection starting at age 1. Yeah.
Absolutely. So we've already hit on the fact that our ability to hear and attend to the sounds of our language is a foundational building block of reading. So if you have chronic ear infections, you are experiencing the language around you as if you were underwater. So that is how your brain is processing sounds, that's how they're remembering sounds, and that's how they will produce them, whether it's in reading, in speaking, or in writing.
And number 6. A parent who answers the infamous why questions. Yes, absolutely. But why is that, Amy?
So as much as kids ask, between probably 70 and 100 why questions a day, and it does get a little, overwhelming. But in addition to wanting to know stuff, They're also looking for that interaction with others. And it's also a chance for the parents, again, to establish that parent-child consistent, supportive, loving relationship, but also to model for them how to think things through. Not everything has to be a chore, though. Sometimes just an answer is good enough. But you're modeling for them also, when it's developmentally appropriate, the thinking process. Well, what do you think the answer is? Tell me what you know about this thing, and let's try to figure it out from there, et cetera. And even if you have to look something up, you can, at a certain age, you can model that for them too. So you're modeling a bunch of different things in addition to the parent-child interaction, which is critical.
So modeling that it's always great to be curious and learning and supporting that and acknowledging that, right? All right, this last one, I'm gonna turn it back on you. All right? And also, let's see for bonus points if you can actually finish it. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. All right. A peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked. So helpful, not helpful? Why is it helpful? Who wants to wave their green thumb in the air and tell me why would something like a tongue twister be a helpful, protective brain development factor? Because, why?
I want them to shout it out. We just gave them all the
We just gave you all the answers. Right? So what did I just do with you? Modeled it, little call and response, little interactive, serve and return, right? That dialogue, that playfulness. Also the sound. Right? That alliteration, exactly. Playing with the sounds of our language, the repetition, right? This doesn't have to be something you have to be an expert in. This is just something that to know that when you play those games, when you engage with those nursery rhymes, you are in fact building a reading brain. Right? Thumbs up for everybody. Awesome. All right, we're gonna take just 2 minutes. We're gonna skip this one. And we're going to jump right into what does that really look like in our schools, in our after school. So we talked a lot about what that looks like at home, in our community, with our family interactions. Now we're going to talk a little bit about what does that look like in instruction and how we work with our kids in our schools. And we have a quick clip from a parent speaking about this program we have called Moonshot Academy. You've heard Megan mention her son was in this earlier. This program has been around for over 10 years, after school and summer. And we just want to, I'm going to let the parents' words speak to the impact of this work, and then Liz and I are going to unpack a little bit about how we got there.
My daughter virtually graduated kindergarten. That was a very hard thing. I felt like she lost a lot of the hands-on that you can't get from a computer. Kids that age need that interaction. They need that one-on-one, moments with the teacher. When school went back, she was gotten a letter, saying she can come to Moonshots. It would be good. We think it would help. And it was amazing. I'm sorry. She went from having no interest in school, just wanted to go to socialize, to have fun, to she's about to graduate the Moonshots program. She was just accepted into the gifted program. She has exceeded our expectations. She is amazing, and she is so willing to help others because she knows the pride that it feels to have that confidence in yourself. We come from a 2-family income. It's very hard. Me and my husband work opposite schedules. So to be able to get home, do the laundry, keep the house clean, make dinner, feed the kids, there's a very short period of time that we have to really be able to sit down and engage. And I feel horrible for that. But in order to survive, this is what our life is. So having a program like Moonshots to where I have somebody that's helping It's kind of like having our tribe. Like Miss Henry said, you know, it takes a village, and it does. And Moonshots and Miss Matheny and Vero Beach Elementary has become our village. And I thank all of you for your support to this program, because my daughter, she's gonna do great things. So thank you.
And I gotta say, her daughter is just so cool. She is the coolest kid, and she really loves being in school. So I also just want to acknowledge, we are a village, we are a community, and we have so many incredible after-school and summer programs represented in this room. So, and each one of us can think of and call to mind families and parents and kids. So I just really wanted to acknowledge this is just one example among many, because we know how important that time is and how important that support is. And so many of you are contributing to that. So gratitude going all over the place. And now Liz is gonna pull back the curtain a little bit about why and how we structure these programs for success.
Okay, so this is called the simple view of reading, and if you really peel back the layers of the onion, it's not that simple, but we're not going to do that too much today. We're just going to leave it with 3 circles. So Goff and Tunmer came up with this in 1986. It's been replicated over 100 times in research, so it is accepted as a framework in which to think about how we get to really reading comprehension. And it's word reading, the ability to decode words, times language comprehension. That gets you to reading comprehension. The key symbol here is the multiplication table, because we know that if one side is not completely built out, the end of the equation is 0, right? So word reading. We had a question in the beginning of today that looked at how many people struggle to read, how many did it but don't remember, and how many just came easily to. So what does it take to read a word? Because one of the themes today is a game to play with language, and I'm gonna have you just grab a little piece of paper and a pencil, and we're gonna do something really quickly here to simulate what we know and understand about this crazy language we call English.
In your binders, section 5 has some blank paper.
Oh yeah, no, I did.
And there are pens on the table.
You know it's real quick. This is your test. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flash up a word, and then it's going to go away, and you're going to write down everything you remember about that word. You ready? Okay, go. Again? Okay. Nope, they're going too fast. All right, everything remember about that word? On to the next slide. Pause. Let them write down what they remember. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. All right. Just making sure everybody's awake after lunch. Okay, so next slide. How'd you all do? How many got the first one? Second one? Third one? Last one? Okay. So what's going on there? Why could we get the first one? The second one was hard. The third one most people get. Last one has the same exact letters as the one before it, but most people don't get that. What were you doing as you were spelling those words, writing down those words? You're trying to, yep, exactly. So our brains are pattern seeking, and you're proficient users of English language. So your brain understands the patterns of our language, and when you are given words like that, your brain is automatically looking for, okay, how do I chunk that word down? How do I make meaning out of that? And that's why it's looking for what is statistically regular. That second word, we have no words in English where that's statistically regular, so you're just basically going off a working memory, which that 5 is about taxing that too. The third one, you can chunk that down. You understand that kanze meant, and that was easier to get. There's a vowel in every chunk. The last one, that's just pure memorization, and you're beyond your working memory load. So what is the implications of that? On the next slide, you can pull that up. I think I just said that already. I don't really follow slides so well. So what does our brain do? Proficient users of language, of reading, they are attending to the internal structure of language, and they understand how our language works and the statistical regularities that we have in spelling and in reading, and they're bringing that to every word. On the next slide, I've said this already, but here's what the research tells us. Our brains are pattern seeking. We are data hunters and gatherers. What do we respond to? We respond to repetition, and we respond to novelty. That's true for all learning. It's specifically true for the ability to decode words. So we need to give kids lots of multiple exposures to words, to understand the patterns that our language represent, and then to really cement those into memory so that they can come to a word and read it as if by sight. One of the questions earlier today was how many of you struggled with reading, didn't struggle with reading. The interesting thing about learning to read, once you know how to read, it becomes a memory without record. We don't know how we learn how to read unless you struggle, because there's a huge emotional component to that. So, and that's on purpose. It's like driving a car. When you first learn to drive a car, you're throwing everything at the kitchen sink at it, right? And then now you probably don't have any memory of how you got here. You just got here, right? So once we learn to read, we don't remember how we did it, we just do it. And I'll test that theory. Putting these words up here, you can't not read these words because you're proficient readers. So understanding how we decode words, direct and explicit instruction with lots of multiple opportunities to practice to get that into memory and back out again is important. Our struggling readers fail to see the patterns in our language. They are not storing the patterns accurately and efficiently, so they're coming to every new word as if they've never seen it before. So that's the work of the extra time. And
so that's unpacking the word reading side just a little bit. And now let's look at that language comprehension side. So I'm going to need a volunteer from the audience. Marie's got a microphone, who feels comfortable as a fluent reader to read out this little paragraph. Thank you, Mr. Faust.
The procedure is actually quite simple. First, you arrange things in different groups. Of course, one pile may be sufficient depending on how much there is to do. If you have to go somewhere else due to a lack of facilities, that is the next step. Otherwise, you're pretty well set. It is important not to overdo things. That is better to do too few things at once than too many.
So what is he talking about? Thank you. Well read, sir. Thank you. What is he talking about? What is this procedure? Anybody know? Let's see what this procedure is. Washing clothes. Oh, so in fact, if you didn't know the context of this text here, that was a little bit tricky to figure out, wasn't it? How many of you just went, oh, now I get it, right? So what you're actually drawing on is background knowledge, right? The critical component of learning, understanding language, right? We've been talking about those foundational building blocks, that oral language, that conversation, that exposure to vocabulary, rich, ongoing, building background knowledge through experience, so that when you actually, you all read those words, right? The decoding part was accessible to you, but without the background knowledge or the context, the meaning was not accessible to you, right? So this is why that multiplication table, right? You have to have both sides of the equation to get us to the ultimate goal of reading comprehension, right? That's the goal. That's the golden ticket. That's what we're aiming for. What does literacy look like when it is applied, right? So building those background knowledge experiences, fluency, vocabulary, getting words not just isolated by themselves, but in the context of sentences, in the context of paragraphs, in the context of the world we live in, right? To be literate in our society, to be able to engage in meaningful and authentic ways. So when we say applied literacy, we're taking those literacy skills and putting them into action. That is the goal of reading comprehension. And we have an incredible gift in this community with partners like Orca and the Environmental Learning Center and Ballet Vero Beach and the museum, and it goes on and on. All of you who are willing to engage with students to give them those authentic lived experiences, that's where we get to the goal of comprehension, right? That's where we get to apply those literacy skills, because what are we learning to read for if not to do something with it, right? So we're going to take a moment. We just dumped a whole bunch of learning on you. Thank you, Amy and Liz, and thinking about how we learn, and specifically how we learn to read. You're going to go ahead and turn and talk with your table for a few moments. What did you just learn that's maybe blowing your mind? How does that connect to what you've learned before? And then what could you do with that information? All right, we'll give you the gong for the 2-minute warning, and then we'll take a couple share-outs. Discuss. Let's get a couple share-outs in the room from this last little brain section. What are some of the things that you now have in your brain? Let's get a couple of learnings. What did we learn from this section? Oh, great, perfect. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Emily Rensselaer from Indian River State College, and yay! And I was sharing with my group that I see some of these same patterns with my college students. They teach how to teach text features, but they're learning about that, and yet when I give them questions that involve them using the text features, they'll tell me, "Oh, it's not in the reading. You gave us a question that's not there." So it's funny that the pattern, just the cycle continues in that way.
Yeah, so taking a thing you learned over here and actually applying it over there. Yes, that is in fact why we taught you that thing. Excellent.
Hello, I'm Mary Rodriguez. I'm from the Hippie program. So one of the things that I did discuss at the table is that story comprehension. I am a mother of 5 children, and one of the things that I had to understand as a parent is knowing that when you're reading, the children can easily read, but it's comprehending the words that are in that sentence. And as a parent, we have to learn to be able to go back to that sentence when we're reading a book, or the children's reading a book, or even doing tests at school. How do you comprehend what you just read? So we have to be able to give tools to the parents to be able to have them understand how to teach their children how to read, but also comprehend what's happening in that story. And that's where it will lead up to school readiness, school success.
And will you tell them what hippie is?
Beautiful.
It's home instruction for parents of preschool youngsters. It's an international and national program. We here in Florida have 20 programs in the state of Florida.
Amazing. What an amazing resource we have in you in this room. Awesome. Thank you. So let's get 2 more and maybe even some actions. All right. Hi, Shannon.
Hi, I'm Shannon with Literacy Services of Indian River County, and we help adults learn to read and write in English or learn English as another language. And my board member Lauren and I here were just discussing how, although today we're talking about early childhood and how kids learn, she sees very similar patterns in our adults that are learning the language. So this is very helpful, and we can't wait to connect with you more and see how you can help us train our tutors.
Well, fantastic. And just to pick up on something Amy shared earlier, right, that as we get older and we've pruned a lot of those neurons, right, it becomes harder to develop new networks, right? So just the same things are happening, college, adult, and just being sensitive to developmentally how to tap into that. Yeah, absolutely. Last one.
Okay, I'm Susan Oglesby, and I don't really have an organization, but I'm a senior who's interested in helping kids learn. So at our table, we made up a little dot point list of the things that we learned. One of them is that grammar, phraseology, and punctuation are important to helping the kid understand what's being conveyed. Secondly, we learned that examples are fabulous and can't be overestimated. Third, all these things combine to help the child feel not dumb, and that the kids learn by doing, like this. Then we loved the concept of the ballet and Orca and Learning Center, so that we understand social activity among all of us helps promote reading and learning.
Beautiful. What an excellent summary of so much of what we have covered today, Susan. Amazing. And just to note, you sort of alluded to it, but just to note, we're modeling throughout our time together here today many of the ways in which we know students learn best. Well, that's you too, right? That we're breaking up the ways in which the information is being delivered, that we are playing and playful, that we've had song, and we're going to end with some creation. So we're really trying to model and give examples of what that actually looks like, sounds like, and feels like. So thank you for being willing to share out on those points. And Marie is going to bring up our next special
So
guest.
up next, I think needs no introduction, but I'll share anyhow, Dr. David Moore, Superintendent of Indian River County Schools. Yep, that's good. There is.
So today just isn't about learning more in regards to literacy. Let me put this little weird thing down. It really is a call to action. It's an opportunity for us to pull together some of the most influential people in our county. Yes, deepen our understanding, but define the roles that we play in this community, ultimately to transform the lives of children. If we leave here and we don't have clearly defined next steps, or we don't know the influence that you have on how to support what can be the literacy capital of America, then we had a good time, we learned a lot, but we didn't fulfill our mission today. So today is a very, very important day. This is something that Learning Alliance has been working with us to create for, I would say, 5-6 months, since the beginning of the school year, really, in saying, let's create a movement. It's not one single school that's responsible. It's not just the Learning Alliance, it's the community. And we collectively understand the influence that we have, whether it be in our work, whether it be in our church, we can begin to create a reality that improves the lives of kids. That's why you're here today. You're not here by accident. You're not here because it just showed up on your agenda. Maybe you thought it was. But when we leave here, we want to leave ensuring that our community is in a better place. So this, to me, is very, very, very exciting. I'll share a little bit of information regarding our school district and kind of where we're at. Brandon, go ahead, buddy. All right, so I want you to look at this slide. And when you look at this particular slide, this is our elementary Title I schools. 75% of the students in those schools economically disadvantaged, 19% of the students with a learning disability. The state average is 11. Really, really, really high. Limited English proficient, 12%. White, non-Hispanic, 42. Black, 21. Hispanic, 30. This is the truth of who's good in our schools. When you compare those numbers to what our community is, it is significantly different. When you compare those numbers to when I came here in January 2020, they're significantly different. But regardless of where a student falls in any of those subgroups, they need to be provided the opportunity to be successful. I wasn't trying to get applause, but okay. So I thought this was important to share because it highlights who our community is and who we're in service to. As we jump to the next one, we have been building a system that focuses in our students. And in all of the news and all the information that you hear about public education, what we're not talking about is the transformational effort of our principals, our teachers, our instructional coaches. What this system is doing to transform instruction, specifically in elementary school, is absolutely amazing. You should go and see the systems that are in place. You should go and see how we're able to look at a student, understand the reality of where they're at, and begin to have conversations in real time about how we shift or modify the instruction to meet the needs of that specific kid. These people are bending over backwards, these people being our teachers, our principals, our administrators, to create an environment that is the foundation being the science of reading in elementary schools, and I come from a very, very large system, the understanding and the depth in which our principals and teachers can talk through what is the science of reading and bring the science of reading to life through their practices is something I haven't seen in other systems. They have a deep understanding. They're really making it happen. We are in the process of creating systems in our school where we just don't wait for professional development. We just don't wait for the day off when kids are at home to invest in our teachers. We do it weekly. We pull together our assistant principals, our instructional coaches, and our teachers by grade level, and we have the conversation around what does good instruction look like? And the instruction that you just provided, was it successful? Where did you fall short? Where do you have to shift or modify? The kinds of dialogue and conversation that are taking place on a weekly basis by our teachers to improve that quality of instruction really is impressive. We continue to talk about, Brandon, you're out of practice, one back. Parent and community engagement. We have, as we opened up our doors to our children and our families this year, really continue to push and reconnect our parents to our schools. We got to continue to do that. Some behaviors that were created during the pandemic really hurt kids. In this system, the reality that was before the pandemic and the reality that we continue to want to have, these doors were wide open. The level of interaction and opportunity for parents to engage in the lives of their kids is something we need to relearn. We need to make sure every single parent knows that a school is in service of its community and in service to its parents. So really connecting our parents and community. Brandon? All right. This is some data, and it was referenced earlier. When we came in, we created a new strategic plan. I came in January of 2020, the pandemic hit, and it could have been the perfect opportunity to say, it's a pandemic, we're going to take some time and we're just going to recoup. We never did that. We created our strategic plan in the midst of the pandemic. We set goals that did not consider the pandemic. And when you look at the expectation that we have collectively set, all school systems, all districts in the state of Florida were impacted by the exact same pandemic. But when you look at our growth from 18-19, which was no pandemic, to where it is at the end of last school year, of 28 to 12, an improvement of 16 state rankings when you're looking at the students scoring at 3 or above, that's significant. Where the state of Florida, we're 5 percentage points. That's encouraging. That's a validation of the effort and work that we're doing in our school systems. But it's also an awareness that we can't do this alone. That 90%, that moonshot moment that we believe we can in fact have, isn't a system working in isolation. It's a system networking across the community to pull together families to understand the roles that each and every single one of us play to help every single person in our community. If you live in Indian River County, we need to be able to connect and provide services to you so you, in fact, can be successful. This is a slide that I like. It really talks through what we're trying to create. We really want to have deep, rich systems in our school system. We are connecting our community to our family. We have an organization that just doesn't talk about teaching, but we embrace the craft of teaching, where we're having real, honest conversations about what system needs to be in place to continuously improve the quality of instruction. In today's world, teaching is complex. You have students from all different backgrounds who walk into a classroom who are at multiple levels. And to say that we're going to teach one lesson to meet the needs of those 22 or 25 kids is a disservice to those kids. There are some kids who are at the very, very low end, and we need to scaffold up that instruction to bring them to grade level. There are other students who are beyond the grade level, and we can't pull them back down to the middle. We need to accelerate them and push them forward. So creating systems in our school really to support teachers. We have a problem throughout the United States, specifically in Florida, where we can't keep teachers. We're going to hire 122 teachers this year, going into next school year. That's not an alarming number for us. It's actually a number that's ultimately lower. About 7 to 8 of those teachers will actually come from schools of education, meaning that they prepared and went to school to be a teacher. The rest will be walking in to a new career in which they didn't study to be. So we're going to have to drastically wrap our arms around those educators, newly called educators, to ensure they not only receive the support and feel successful, they ultimately stay. Some of the work that we've been doing around creating what we call our Moonshot School, which is Vero Beach Elementary School, is to do just that. It's to create a school in which we, A, prove to America you can, in fact, reach 90% when you provide the appropriate level of resources and you design yourself in a way with the right teachers who have the right belief and skill in order to get the work done. But at the same time, use that school for the rest of the community to go and see what good systems look like, what good instruction looks like. We are doing an absolutely outstanding job at retaining teachers. Our percent of open positions is no different than it would be from 5 or 6 years ago. The average system stays around 1.5% to 2.5%. We're right around 2%, which is right where you want to be. Of course, you want to be 0, but ultimately 2% would be that average. Because we're investing in providing that support, we're seeing less and less teachers walk away because they receive that support. These are 5 challenges, and we have had a number of conversations over what do we want to present to each and every single one of you regarding these challenges. We're not going to solve or create plans around these challenges today, but we do want to introduce them. We do want to continue the conversation. High-quality early childhood experiences. Each and every single student in our community should have an appropriate universal pre-K. When we have the opportunity to have meaningful full-day pre-K for every kid in the community, that's going to make sure we get to that 90%. When you walk into kindergarten and only 40% of them are kindergarten ready, that's hard, complex work. That is reteaching. That's going backwards and having to pull students up. What if 100% of the students walked in kindergarten ready? What if every single student had the opportunity to connect to caring adults to ensure the volume of words they were exposed to was appropriate? That they were reading, I was going to sing it, I'm not going to do it. The read, talk, play, sing, create was a reality for them. Student attendance and engagement. Let me say that again, student attendance and engagement. If you watch our board members, please don't. If you watch our board meetings, sorry. Then say, please don't. One of the data points that I gave to the board members is that we have drastically improved attendance. And we have drastically improved attendance. In comparison to last year, we have about 1,140 hours more instruction taking place on a daily basis because we've increased the percent of students attending school. We're not satisfied with that because at the end of the day, when you look at attendance, we have a community-wide problem. Over 50% of our students in the entire school system, regardless of the school, have missed more than 10 days. Have missed more than 10 days. Think of a teacher and providing the continuity of instruction over the course of 180 days and going back to have to reteach. We need to uphold the expectation at the principal level, at the teacher level, at the parent level, at the church level, where everyone says it's such a priority. It's changing a perception. When you hear, "Mom, we're not doing anything today," that can't be the truth. Like 3 people heard that this morning. It has to be each and every single moment that we have available to educate children is a meaningful experience. Does it mean school can't be fun? Absolutely not. It should be an absolute joy. But we have to improve attendance. So as we move into next year, that is going to be significant. Engagement. It was mentioned earlier today, one of the things we as a community should be proud of is the number of extracurricular activities that we have. It's like no other county I've ever seen. The other day I had a meeting at the Boys and Girls Club. As I pulled out, the boys lacrosse team was at practice, and I drove down the street a little bit. Then there was the girls lacrosse team. Then I turned the corner, and I see all the students falling into Vero Beach Theater for their practice or whatever it is they were going. Then I turn up to go home, and you see the girls' flag football team practicing. What we offer here is the opportunity for students to be engaged and connected. The clubs, the activities, the experience that we have, that's going away. We need to protect that because ultimately it is the #1 dropout strategy that we can provide to our students. So we need to say, get involved. Parents, get your kids involved because I can guarantee you there's something for them in our schools. Recruitment and retention of teachers, we've spoke about that. But we need to honor our teachers. They do hard work. Okay, all right. You should be clapping. The truth is we've done some outstanding work in right-sizing our district budget. And many of you have heard me say, when I first had my first conversation with the chief financial officer, was that, welcome to Indian River County. You spend $1.44 for every dollar you receive. I was like, well, I kind of wish I knew that before I got here. They don't really show you the budget until you get here. But we've right-sized the budget. But we're just getting started. Because the way Florida is designed, the reduction of students in public school was that like a timer for me? Okay. The reduction of student enrollment is going to continue to increase. The funding away from public education is going to continue to increase. The students who need the resources and support the most will remain in public education. So we have to make sure that we are, in fact, protecting public education, that we understand what our priorities are, and as a community, we speak the truth. We speak the reality of what's taking place in our schools. I get stopped all of the time, and it's like a secret. I love my teacher. I love my principal. Shout it from the rooftops. Shout it from the rooftops. Somebody's going to tell the story. We have to tell our story. And I couldn't be any prouder of the story our teachers and our principals are telling on a daily basis. Parent awareness and education. A lot of what we learn today, we need to ensure every single parent in our community knows that same information. I've never met a parent, whether it be here or whether it be in Miami, that a parent doesn't love their kid. But their life walk requires them to work 2 different jobs. They are a single parent. They don't know if they're going to have power in their house when they get home. So we have to wrap our arms around them to ensure they deeply understand what it takes and how to access the resources so those words are spoken to them. They are read to. The songs are sang to them. We just can't say, in my house, I'm good. We're called as a member of this community to say, I know we're good, but I want everybody to be good. So how do I leverage my influence in order to ensure we're getting that to everybody in our community? And then authentic community engagement. That's what this is. Really, each and every single one of us understanding how we can help the children because they live in Indian River County. This isn't just for us to understand. This is for us to energize ourselves, to activate ourselves, to clearly create a plan throughout our community to ensure because you were born in Indian River County, you will in fact receive the best education in the greatest place to live. That's the work that we're doing. That's the work that we want to accomplish. The moonshot moment, the 90% of students scoring at grade level, at third grade, above or at level or above. It's very, very well known here. Over the last 12 years, right? Where's Barbara? 12 years. I say we, even though I've only been here for 3.5. We have effectively communicated the understanding that why it is so important. The next natural step is to define the roles and actions that we play to bring it to life. That's our next step. I think that's my last slide. Go to it. So those are some beautiful kids at Vero Beach Elementary School. That's my presentation. Thank you. Let's go and do great work.
And with that, we're going to give you just a couple minutes to take what you just learned. And this time, I'm going to introduce one new thing to you. On your table, you should have some red, yellow, orange triangles. Your facilitator has that for you. And as Dr. Moore said at the beginning of his speech, if we don't take what we're doing here today and turn it into action, what are we even doing? So I want you to start really thinking about, you've been brainstorming quite a bit of ideas thus far, but really start thinking about concrete actions that you could be taking from what you're learning into your job, into the community, and into the spaces that you inhabit. So we're gonna discuss with our table and start writing down some actions on those. You can just write 1 or 2, that's fine. Should be enough to go around the table. And we have, before we get to our last presentation of the morning. All right, bring your conversations to a close. Make sure that you're writing down some actions on those colored strips of paper. You will find out why shortly. And Marie is going to introduce our next speaker.
All right, speakers, we've got, so excited. You know, we've been talking about what's happening in the schools, what's happening in the community. And now our last presentation, we are going to talk about what's happening at home, how we're working with parents. You know, learning to read begins really in utero. So we're so happy to have Wanda Lincoln, Dr. Elizabeth Swan are here, and we're going to talk to you a little bit about really what it takes to make sure those kids are coming to school kindergarten ready.
It's always funny when you have to speak when everybody is busy learning, and so it's like, be quiet now and learn from me. You know, which is not my intent, and that's, as you know, that's not how I function. I was asked to say, why am I here? I'm here because I believe in the mission. Education and children have been my vocation, and now they're my avocation. And I feel as if I was blessed to move to Vero Beach, where I could continue my vocation in a different way and still be supporting children. And as we're going to talk a little bit now, most important is the teachers. How many of you are teachers? Give yourself a pat on the back. This is what makes a difference. How many of you are parents or grandparents? Give yourself a double pat on the back. You've got those kids a lot longer than we teachers had them. So that's why I am here, and I wanted to just say a little bit about how important it is for us to continue to learn. And was it Brandon who's doing those slides back? That's perfect. We're going to talk a little bit about kindergarten readiness and a kindergarten readiness playbook. What do we need to do, and how can each of us play a part in making sure that the most children are ready to start their learning? Seeing as how I believe in reading, I'm going to read you something. Because when we talk about parents and we talk about preschool, kids aren't just learning letters and sounds and shapes. They're learning how to be people at the age that we meet them. And this is something called children learn what they live, that when they live with you. If a child learns with criticism, he learns to condemn. If he lives with hostility, he learns to fight. If he lives with ridicule, he learns to be shy. If he lives with shame, he learns to feel guilty. If a child lives with tolerance, he learns to be patient. If he lives with fairness, he learns justice. If a child lives with security, he learns to have faith. If a child lives with approval, he learns to like himself. If a child lives with acceptance and friendship, he learns to find love in the world. And from those attributes comes the strength that they need to be learners. They learn grit, they learn resilience, and they learn that they are an important person in the universe. So whenever you have the chance to touch the life of a child, I hope you'll remember that you're part of how those children live, and that's what they learn. The power of parents and families, nobody can deny that. I think we know well how important parents and families are. So when you say, are you supporting education? If you support parents and their hard job that they do, you are supporting education. The other part of the playbook is access to quality pre-K programs. And to me, I could get on my soapbox and you would be here for dinner about how important it is to have teachers, important teachers, for little children. I'll just tell a little story that some of you have probably heard, but Barbara always wants me to tell this story. When I was busy teaching as a vocation, you might be at a cocktail party or you're with or a tea. No, not really. So somebody would say, well, what do you do? I would say, well, I work with really young children. What's the response? Yeah, you were at that party. I didn't know. But yes, that's the response. Oh. And then if the conversation went on, I would say something like, oh, and I teach graduate school. Oh, wow, you teach graduate school. Okay. What's harder? You know that? What's harder? To be with 23-year-olds every day for 5 or 6 hours, or to be with people who choose to be in your course for 2 hours a week? Truly, we have to honor preschool teachers. So important. So some of you are thinking, oh gosh, I have to write down something I can do. Here's what you can do. Every time that you have an opportunity to validate how important it is to work with young children, and you remember what Amy taught us, do it. If everybody in this community validated preschool teachers and said, do you know how to develop a brain? Okay, you don't? Then don't denigrate somebody who knows how to do it. And now we come to the hard part. We have to get money. We have to get money to validate. That isn't the only way teaching. Nobody would be a teacher if you were working for money. But if we are going to validate our teachers, we have to get decent funding. And in our community, how many of you know this is a pretty generous community? We're lucky. We're very, very lucky. But that is not enough. That is not going to get you a salary for preschool teachers that is adequate to understanding how they are a profession and how important they are. It's going to take a public-private partnership. That means another thing you can do is call your legislator. We're lucky to have Erin Grahl represent us as a community. She's working hard up in Tallahassee to get more money. But as you'll see on the next slide, that worked out to be $350 a kid. Hardly enough for lunch. So it has to be public-private partnerships that allow us to honor our preschool teachers, and it takes everybody in the community as well. We can have the next one. Florida's not doing so well, but that doesn't mean we can't do so well. I kind of worry when we take the statistics, like we're 4th in the country to access 4-year-olds, but we're 41st in the country for funding quality. Because in a way, and this is just my opinion, and if you don't like it, you can just disregard it. The thing that we need to focus on is not the country, it's not Florida, it's what? Indian River County. And that's why we're lucky to have Dr. Moore, we're lucky to have all these preschool teachers, we're lucky, lucky, lucky to have this. But there are quality standards. You can go to the next slide. Look where we are. Look where we are in the country. That's kind of interesting. Alabama and Mississippi are ahead of us, by the way. I want to just say one word about, and that's on the next slide, because I know we have to go. One more slide. Yes. When we say quality, what do we mean? Because if I just use the word quality, that could mean for every one of our brains, we could bring another context, one of the things we were learning about today, to that. Quality means, and this is small and I'm going to go fast, but I think that all of us who are interested in really good preschool should carry one of these with us, this list of qualities. We should have standards. We should have curriculum supports. And here comes the teachers. We're going to have a teacher that has a degree. We should have teacher specialized training, and Elizabeth is going to talk about that in just a minute. We should have staff professional development. That, to me, includes some coaching as well. We should have good ratios in our class. We should have screening and referral to make sure those little kids are healthy, and continuous quality improvement system. Florida has 2 of those. 2 out of 10. Alabama's got 10. I think what we need to do is to say, how many does Indian River County have? And you're going to hear from Elizabeth, who works for Child Care Resources. How many of you know Child Care Resources? If you haven't visited, you should get yourself over there. And they have 9. They have 9, right? So there's one that they don't have. And so quality is possible. It's achievable. And I think what we need to do is celebrate. And I think our esteemed visitor said, collect the ideas. Collect those ideas, get them down. I love that. Because then when we're in trouble, we find out what somebody else did and find out what that was. Anyway, this is our esteemed Elizabeth, who is doing so much for the teachers who work at Child Care Resources, and she's going to tell us about some of the things she's doing.
Yes, thank you, Wanda. Everything that you mentioned is nothing new to Child Care Resources. In fact, those data points are some things that we have been living with for quite some time. So much so that we, with the help of Impact 100, created the credentialing program for early educators back in 2017. It's a program that I was fortunate enough to start and live with, and I wanted to share a story of success. We had a student, her name is Valentina. She's pre-service. She came to us wanting to be an early educator. At the time, she was cleaning houses, which was really interesting when we went to do fingerprinting. She didn't have fingerprints that we could recognize. She was working with a lot of cleaning supplies. So she comes to us. She would like to be an early educator. Our program mentors early educators through their own educational goals. We started in 2017 with the partnership at IRSC, providing them classes to obtain their credentials, their director's credentials, and we since have expanded into the associate's, bachelor's, and master's level. Valentina wanted to go and pursue her career in early education. She became part of our program and was able to get her credentialing certificate. She did her hours at Child Care Resources. She learned and worked with our established program, early education program there. And last year, she graduated from IRSC with an associate's degree in early education. She has maintained her relationship with our program. We do work with our alumni. We provide coaching. We also do professional development right here in this room on Saturdays. And I get to visit her. We've hired her on at our center, and I get to visit her throughout the semester. And the other day, I went into her classroom, and I saw her holding, she's in the infant room, holding a baby and cooing to her in English and Spanish. She's both bilingual. And Valentina's successes aren't just Child Care Resources alone. It's through our partnerships, the people in this room. I'm looking at my table mates, IRSC. You guys understand and provide access to these early education classes so that these teachers can get their degrees in early education. Other partnerships, our funding partnerships, ELC, they have recently provided funds for us to have an incentive program, which allows our students to go to school and get paid a stipend to go to school. Our partnerships with a state organization called TEACH, it's a scholarship program. Our students go to school for free. They actually receive bonuses upon completions of degrees. So through the partnerships in our room, you individuals who know and understand that our teachers deserve to be able to access their own educational goals, and through their journey themselves, then become better qualified teachers in the classroom. So I wanted to celebrate the partnerships in the room, and thank you all.
So at one of our turn and talks,
Now comes the extemporaneous part of the program.
at one of our, I thought you wanted me to share the story. At one of our turn and talks, Wanda just challenged us in Indian River County to honor our pre-K teachers as professionals and to pay them accordingly. And Todd, who used to be a principal in Miami, told me,
and Martin, that they were on the same general contract as the teachers in some other counties, therefore the pay may be the same as a general classroom teacher.
And the funding came from?
And the funding was not through my school budget, more than likely from Children's Trust in Miami and other entities in other areas.
So there is a way.
That's the kind of public-private partnership that's possible. And what I loved about that story is something's going on in Indian River County, but that doesn't mean we can't go look someplace else. And we can't go look in the playbook you're going to put around to find what are the best ideas for us. Because those kids are going to be taking care of us in the old folks' home. No.
How are we doing on time? Can I tell the Amy story? We're good.
Yeah, we're good. Okay. For our final reflection moment of the day, now you know what's coming, right? This is why we have structures and routines in our classrooms so we know what to expect next. Really just thinking about what did you learn from that section, but let's pull it all together from the day. And actually, if you want to go to that next one, that's perfect. And really thinking about all of the possible ways that you can take action, right? Based on who you are and where you are situated in this literacy ecosystem that has been spoken about, right? This idea that we are all in this, we are all getting on the playing field, and what does that look like to step into action, right? You know, speaking up on behalf of young children, this idea of donating your small talk, we can all do that. We can all take what we've learned today and share it wherever we are, whomever we are speaking with, right? Sharing the Read, Talk, Play, Sing, Create. We have all this great social media content that our Moonshot Families has created, but also the events in the community, right? In real time. And Marie's got some resources right here that I see that she's holding about how to grab onto what is that, concrete ideas. You don't have to come up with them. There's a whole bunch of resources that we've created that can be shared as part of our commitment to action in the community, right? Finding ways to honor the pre-K teachers, talking to the elected officials to vote for funding for these innovative ideas, this public-private partnership innovation. And of course, coming up on April 26th, Marie, what's that one? Oh, you can't read that part. That is the MCAN meeting at the end of next month.
Make that slide.
Yep. And thank you for living to learn the fact that we have to make slides with bigger font. So on April 26th will be our next Moonshot Community Action Network meeting, right? And we're going to get deeper into that quality preschool conversation. So be looking for follow-up messaging. And what are your new ideas and wondering? We've already heard so many possibilities popping out into the room. And so as we go into this last turn and talk and action-focused reflection, I'm gonna need you to definitely write down some ideas on your red, yellow, and orange, because our final closing moment, we are going to do something with them. All right.
And I have a few more actions you can take. So everyone will think of this. So one is, one of the things we talk about is learn more. Everybody has a binder. We have a lot of information in there about literacy, about what's happening in the nation, what's happening locally. Please go through that. There's so much you can learn. Also, so grateful you're all here. It's the school district and our community that together we're holding this Moonshot Moment goal. So if you will please join us, declare yourself a Moonshot leader. Inside your binder in the left side is a form. If you'll fill that out and drop it in the basket as you leave. We would love to have you commit to being a Moonshot leader and help us to promote that. So those are a few more ideas you can put down on your colorful triangle flames.
So 5 minutes, turn and talk. We'll give you a couple more minutes because it's a lot to process. And then we're going to come back together for our closing moment.
Thank you for coming today. Because of people like you, I can read and I love school. Today's readers are our future leaders. Who knows, I might be the next mayor, astronaut, builder, or scientist. Now that I'm a good reader, I know anything is possible. Hey guys, you ready to see my reading dance? It's funny.
Read, talk, play, sing, create. Read, talk, play, sing, create. Read, talk, play, sing, create. Moonshot families lead the way. Moonshot families lead the way. Moonshot families lead the way.
And as Easton said, it's not just Moonshot families, it's our Moonshot community that will lead the way. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to create now with your, if you haven't figured it out already, some of you are the early finishers. You have in your hands the fuel for this Moonshot community goal. So what you're going to do is you are going to take your paper. You also have tape at your table. And you are going to put the fuel in a rocket. There's a table number on a rocket. It matches your table number. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to do two things. Sign your name to the rocket and add the flames to ignite your actions. And we will check in with you once you are there. Go on to the rocket. We're going to come around and find out what kind of fuel we have going into our rocket here. All right, Megan, what kind of fuel do you have over at your rockets?
Who would like to share a piece of their fuel?
All right, Jennifer would love to.
I don't know about love to, but here we go. So by supporting, we put up here supporting teachers as one of them. Supporting teachers to engage students by play and song and being storytellers, we exponentially help students.
Beautiful. Bravo, thank you. Marie, how about some fuel from your side of the room?
All right,
And if
Kylie.
everybody could respect our speakers, that would be awesome.
So for our fuel, we have strengthened community collaboration to improve the lives of Indian River County youth.
Beautiful, thank you. All right, I got one from this corner. Here we go. Who's got one? Who's got some fuel over here? Go for it.
We all have the power to educate and to be educated to support. You educate by engaging, developing, understanding, creating, acting, taking time together, and empowering.
Thank you, Principal Finnegan. Let's get one more round the room. Megan.
All right, who would like to share some rocket fuel? Oh, perfect, thank you. It's Amanda.
Amanda Gooch, Child Care Resources, Early Childhood Education Coach. Yeah. I'm committed to continue providing quality technical assistance for early childhood educators in Indian River County.
Beautiful. Marie, one more piece of fuel from your exploding rocket over there.
Okay, well, we had advocacy regarding funding with Children's Services Advisory Council to honor past promises. Ooh.
We are 12, Team 12, and one thing that came out of today is that exposure, that background knowledge really struck us. But everything that everybody said today, the language, the talking to your child, we just wanted to point out and put up that we could teach people that this starts prior to birth. It doesn't start when two babies are born equally. It starts with the mother's mental state, the mother's nutrition, the mother talking to the child, and those neurons starting in utero with hearing the mother's voice and patterning. So we just really wanted to bring that out as well today.
And on that note, thank you, Ms. Cowie. We weren't quite sure if we could get a circle with nearly 200 people, but this is about as close as we could get. So if everybody just take a look around the room, wherever you are in this space. Look at the incredible, incredible souls, incredible humans who chose to come spend this last few hours here, because this matters. So thank you for the gift of your time. Thank you for the gift of your brilliance. Thank you for the gift of your heart. And for sharing with each other together, we do more. So with that, thank you for being a part of our Moonshot Moments.